So hello, I am joined by a lovely life form. Hi. And she just has to be the star of the show. She knew we were getting going in the workshop and oh, she's staring into your soul right now, everyone. Enjoy. Hi, ma'am. I know, you're a precious life form. Data sang a song about you. Yeah, he did, I swear. Oh, I look so weird without my headset on. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Meow, I know. This is the talking to that happens when I'm on break. We just have whole conversations together. All right, so we were talking about culture. We went over aspects of culture, what comprises culture. We even touched on memes and other ways to convey culture, especially in the modern era here. Right? We did all that, I promise. And now we have a cat. And of course, how many cultures have adopted cats into them? Internet culture for sure. I mean, what they supposedly had a deific state in Egypt. Although maybe Egypt was ahead of its time because aren't we just posting a bunch of cats and near worshiping them? And we also talk in hieroglyphics. And if you're like, what do you mean we our language is hieroglyphics? Have you seen emotes on Twitch? Have you seen emoji on your mobile devices? We speak in hieroglyphics and we worship cats. Egypt was ahead of its time. Ready Nap says, we call my laptop the tap top when the kitty uses it. It just goes tappa 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 tappa. So we went through a lot together, everyone. Oh, thank you for enduring. Again, the aspects of culture. We are going to be addressing the hierarchy of needs because culture will be born from this, or at least in the model that I'm presenting to you as a way to consider creating culture in your own worlds. Using the aspects of culture that exist for the reasons they exist, wherever it is you're hoping to develop a people and how they are expressing themselves as an intelligent species. And that, of course, built off of last night when we talked about sentience and sapience. We talked about what is the mark of civilization, which, to one anthropologist, it was this healed femur. And let's find a culture. Let's find a culture for the people that we had uplifted from our planet. Now, our planet started out as nothing, and then a universe, and then a galaxy, and then a solar system within the galaxy. It has 2 suns and 13 planets, and a whole host of moons. I'm sure that you can appreciate. We discussed it being a protoplanet and how planets form. We through chat, you all voted to give it a medium density ring of some kind. That there was a geosynchronous moon, and that there was another moon that just kind of did its thing. Is it dust collecting? Is it what is it? Right? There was a bit of a mystery. Then we zoomed down and we created effectively Pangea and life out of the primordial soup. We brought forth fungi and plants and bacteria, and then bugs and then whatever, all sorts of other things, dinosaurs, avians, as life continued to become more complex. Just trust me. I know this took billions of years, but we got it done in a couple days. And then we said disaster struck as we discussed different kinds of disasters. Now, the kind of disaster that struck wasn't really specified in chat, though I hope you'll enjoy what it is that I will revisit if you remember those workshops from the springtime. And in the wake of that disaster, this is where we were going to introduce magic to our world. The world was ripe, life could exist, it was going to adapt, it was already stress tested. We know that the moon gives magic, life that has adapted to this force of magic, this element, this whatever, this energy. So life can wield magic. And it is manifested by, and again, that wasn't saved in a filled in state, but you all voted in chat by the assertion of will. So it does take a sapient or sentient creature in order to have a threshold of will. And last night you also did refine the design of what our uplifted life would be. It was aquatic in origin, plant-based, small, in whatever, we could bring up D&D terms of what is small. It's a particular feat here and there. We are keeping it rather relative, but so in the D&D kind of sense, it's a small species. Their mobility were tentacles and even some membranes that kind of undulated. Water was their primary movement. However, air, they had the ability to also float or even fly a bit in the air. And then the senses were more of a tactile sense. So similar to, our hearing is kind of tactile because that's vibrations against our eardrums. Though we consider it something separate, they're able to see and hear and this through their primary sense is a tactile sense. Their native depth was in the shallows, and you all voted that the magic is by will and by some that might be born with a particular organ, or as Big Bane had confessed last night in chat, he's one of those people who actually do not get a rash from poison ivy, and there's people who also don't have the after effects of asparagus. There's people who get really red cheeks if they drink alcohol. There's people who can't process milk, right? The lactic acid and such, or they can, but just. There's a little bit of a symphony afterwards, right? You process it in a fun way, a very not covert way. And based on those prompts and the conversation we had in the workshop, I told you all, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to put this all together now. And I want to give you the pitch of our world, our fantasy world, where we are going to have high adventure, where we are going to have fun, and where things are going to proceed as if these were the humans of our world. These plant-based aquatic creatures, the intelligent life. This is going to be our ubiquitous human equivalent in a fantasy setting. Because the rule was no humans. It's not that I'm tired of them. I just, I live around them and with them, and I talk to them and I interact with them and I get business from them. I conduct business back to them. I've had enough humans. If we're going to make a fantasy setting, and especially if we really want to explore culture, language, art, and everything else, let's try to remove us, the usness, from the equation. And it might actually make it easier. And it'll also challenge you to step out of your shell. since we don't have humans, and we don't have humans with silly hats as our as our backup. Hi, Sugar Plum Bubble Yum. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. It's not whether or not it does; it's whether or not you smell it. Well, thank you for the correction. I appreciate you logging in just for that. Also, Game Maestra Jenny, I'm sorry if I didn't say hi to you when you first came in here. Tiomos Frio, howdy to you. Hot tub stream time? Nah, not yet. We might be talking about a primordial Earth with boiling oceans and a the genetic soup, but I it's been a while since I've been in the genetic soup known as a hot tub. So all right. So what have I been able to put together to pitch to you all to act as a basis moving forward? This is what we know as the creator. Whether we're the creator in terms of we're the storyteller in a role-playing game set in real life. We're the creator in that we are pretending to be a creator deity or pantheon. We're a creator in that we are the clockmaker. We're setting things and then we're letting it go and stepping back and enjoying the show. This is the out of character knowledge. This is that kind of an approach. So we know our fantasy universe is comprised similarly to the real world one. However, there is an energy that exists in it similar but parallel to those of normal physics that reacts to will and channeled through living creatures who are compatible to harness the energy. This is similar to how plants derive sustenance from the sun in a way we as mammals can't, or reptiles get oxygen from the air while fish cannot. I know there's an exception. You have amphibians or you have like fish that can breathe air for a while. This is the gist. The concept we are adopting is the Carl Sagan quote, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself." Our galaxy is dense with stars and star stuff. It is a 12-armed spiral galaxy, and our solar system is centered around twin stars. 13 planets with many moons orbit around and between the suns. This solar system is rich with elements, energy, and this parallel magical force of will. Just as things tend to have a circular shape due to the nature of atoms, living things can also tend towards the ability to adapt to the presence or pressure of magic as a force upon its development. Our planet has a dense atmosphere, which helps to protect it from the radiation of its two suns. Though due to its size and its moons, its gravity can seemingly act in a similar fashion to its tides, creating interesting opportunities for life to adapt. In other words, the gravity can become intense and reduce. At a point in time when life was first developing, a massive comet made of ice and other frozen liquids, gases, elements, and dusts it had accumulated along the way impacted the largest of the planet's two moons. Right here, okay? This is me piecing together what we've come up with in our workshops to present a as coherent as possible story of how our world came into being. And dust that had accumulated along the way impacted the largest of the planet's two moons and all but halted its orbit, while shattering brilliantly. This eventually formed the ring around the planet, as well as both caused an extinction-level ice age event due to the ice and gases reflecting more light away, disrupting the then balance of gases and such in the atmosphere, and seeding the lands and seas with various elements and radioactivity. The smaller moon has been traveling around in its original orbit, but has grown a bit over time as it collects the ice and other things in its path. As it grows, it has also been able to pull in more and more of the orbiting debris, and has a very reflective coating for it, such that it would look almost like a brilliant comet itself, with eddying, trailing star stuff always behind it, and a constant glimmer from the two suns. The impacted moon, seeded with the parallel galactic elements, right? So we have our traditional physics and atoms and elements that we know, and the parallel of this metaphysical, this magic stuff. The thing that can react to thinky bits that are able to harness the thinky thoughts. Parallel galactic elements makes a very, very ponderous orbit around the planet, and over the millennia has been able to spread this magical pressure / environment across across the reset planet, right? Because we had the disaster that reset life and the environment, and with the one moon maybe being in more of a close to a geostationary orbit, that might have some gravitational or even magnetic effects that could have disrupted the plates or something else. So the world ain't what it used to be after this. Causing life to adapt to it over the eons with the physical and metaphysical pressures this system has created. During the recessed seas of the Ice Age, a type of plant had adapted which had roots that, similar to how plants grow towards the sun, the roots sought out certain stimuli and nutritional compositions, allowing the plants to crawl along the shallow seafloor and or float with the water to spread, or in the case of the receding seas, contract with the water levels. With the atmosphere thickening, some of the plants were able to produce gas pockets that didn't just allow them to float in the water better, but also be able to rise a ways in the air. And this is, if you, cold air is denser, okay? It is easier, in a sense, for planes to fly through cold air because it is denser and can offer, more stuff to glide on. There are plants in our real world that produce little gas pockets. It's a type of a kelp, actually, that have little bubbles of, I think, carbon dioxide. Maybe. I'm sorry if I get that. It might be nitrogen for all I know. That could be interesting too. But there are plants that can produce little like gas pockets, right? Aquatic plants. I'm trying to understand elements of what can exist in our world and give it an adaptation to what we have created. Now, let me check chat real quick. You like the music? Well, Sugar Plum, this is called Middle Earth Dawn. That is our background music currently, since that was talked about in the prior section. Big Bane says, the last book I read seriously was The Yiddish Policeman's Union. Celtic Lady says, what if magic were also affected by the moons? Could we have a magic tide? I don't see why we couldn't, Celtic. Plant farts. In a sense, Ready to Nap, although what we breathe are plant farts, right? They breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, and we do the opposite. So, we and plants we're huffing our own farts. Hi, Iron Chef Lord. Big Bane says, I want to focus on the moons, but that might be a religion thing. And we will have religion coming up as well. Hi, Tony. Good to see you again, too. So with the atmosphere thickening, some of the plants were able to produce... Okay, that was the gas pockets there. Sensors similar to our carnivorous plants, such as the Venus flytrap, continued adapting and allowing the plants to grab onto rocks to maintain buoyancy. So they might have they might hold a smaller rock or latch onto a bigger one. But there's this concept of weight or mass that we're slowly introducing, maybe even the grip ability of the roots. And of course, plants with stronger roots could hold on to more or bigger rocks as they need to. Or would have better buoyancy or even flight because they have better control over how much stuff they're holding. To grab onto rocks to maintain buoyancy or even build shelters against some of the tides or predators that also had adapted to the changing factors. Able to discern more and more about their surroundings, soon these plants had adapted much more responsive tendrils, navigational frills, and even methods of basic communication in order to continue their survival. Having developed a way to retain knowledge of their tools, observed patterns of tides and other forces, and even ways to adapt to the changes incurred by the planet, the plant species spread with the oceans and some by wind currents as the Ice Age was ending due to the second moon collecting reflective dust, the atmosphere settling down, and the actions of other life over the eons. That is how we are going to get to our point of... One moment. All the references, everyone. But finally, jellyfish appeared. This, and here is our point. And that was a part I read in the last section. That was from a book called Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. So now that we have this basis of understanding of what happened to bring us to a point where we had a planet, there was life, life changed due to a catastrophe, it adapted over time and pressure, with the seas receding and the chemistries of things changing, the sensors needing to adapt and get stronger, the tendrils and all of these things were being tested, tried, and pressured by environmental factors until now we are at a point where we can have an early culture to these things that have developed a way to remember where the best sunny spots are, where the best rocks are, where the best whatever is. And in a sense, that is going to take us to here. This was a clip that we watched from our last workshop, well, last night anyway, from 2001: A Space Odyssey. We're probably going to be a little bit past this point, as this is the dawn of tool use, and then the assertion of a family leader as the one monkey here is like, no, I'm the leader, and this happens, right? So this is the dawn of all this happening. Where we're gonna pick up is probably gonna be past this, since our jellyfish have already picked up rocks and can, in a sense, communicate too, by jumping or screaming, or by waving things in a dramatic fashion to intimidate or incite, or in this case, almost organize. We just saw an organization, though there were no words that we understood it to be. As we saw a family develop, a culture develop. That was also invoked, Bane. But so too, do we need a culture that is born from how it is we are able to meet these needs? Our intelligent species, our people. Remember, this is the ubiquitous people of the world, such as we understand humanity to be ubiquitous in a fantasy setting. Now, maybe your fantasy setting has no humans, but elves are the ubiquitous one. In that case, then it's elves. I hope you get the idea, right? This is going to be our bread and butter. Ryu from Street Fighter, Mario from Smash Brothers. This is going to be our human in D&D equivalent in our fantasy world. Yes, both Banes are here. And I'm curious about what chaos or organization could ensue from that, Miller. Now, as we go back, let's take a look. This is the hierarchy of needs. And, well, I'm sure there's other psychological and sociological models that can challenge this or expand it or work to replace the concept. I want to work with this model for our consideration here. Are there others? I'm absolutely sure there are. And if you want to discover them, absolutely, because these fields are always changing. The norms, the standards, the classifications, the medications, the approaches, all of this it's the only change is, or the only constant is change. So we need to determine, how do our floating plant people take care of these needs? How do they take care of these needs? And even, we're going to take our culture to the point where there might be very small examples of actually achieving esteem or self-actualization. But I want to save this kind of a thing more for our next week's workshop. The details, the refinement. We went from Stone Age into Bronze or Iron Age, and most of us are still about here. Love and belonging is the luxury right now, okay? Plus, it lets us build things one step at a time, so it doesn't seem as daunting. And I hope that all of you who do world building, or even if you paint minis, it's the same concept. One layer at a time. In our natural processes of evolution or creation or culture, whatever, right? Everything is born from what has happened before. One layer at a time. So now I ask, how do these creatures breathe? Do they need to? Do they breathe carbon dioxide, or is our world nitrogen rich and they actually breathe nitrogen? If they can float, presumably they can at least last for a time in the air if they're floating, and maybe even flying a bit if they're kind of wiggling their flaps, their little flappy doos, their frills. Or if we want to keep this to plants how we know it, or at least for the most part, do they need to breathe? If we take a look at an example of Dungeons and Dragons, there are playable races, like the Warforged, that don't have to breathe. There are undead options that you do not have to breathe. If you play Vampire the Masquerade, you know what? You don't have to breathe. You do not have to breathe in Vampire the Masquerade. The fact that you do is a vestigial behavior such that you can squirt air through your meat to try and communicate to other walking corpses. That's really all that is. So let me ask you. There's 32 of you in chat. I'm not asking you how we breathe. There's a lot of different ways aspiration, like respiration, can occur. There is no correct answer for this either. This is our creature that we are making, and we will build the world around this creature. Breathing. Yes, we breathe. No need to breathe. Every one of you out there, you have one vote in chat. Chat, you might have to expand it. It might be a little box at the top. You might have to reset or like refresh your browser or something on mobile. I'm not sure. It's kind of wonky that way. But each of you out there get a vote. Now, breathing can be done in a lot of ways. Gills, lungs. There are some creatures that they breathe, but they just naturally absorb whatever air is next to them. There's spiders. Spiders breathe through something called a book lung. A book lung is called that because it's kind of like gills, and the gills will extract the oxygen. So there's no like, spiders don't do this. Spiders have something that looks like a heat sink as a lung. It's more surface area if your lung flaps are open up like this. So they need oxygen, and they have receptacles for it to process it, but they don't really breathe. They need the air, but they don't really breathe. It is just the pressure of the atmosphere and the amount of oxygen at the level in which they exist is such that they can just absorb the oxygen they need through their book lungs. All right, time is almost up. It looks like a lot of you do want us to breathe in some way. Okay. So we do need to breathe something. Let's see. There are plants on Earth that create energy and darkness. I forget the name of it. It's like chemosynthesis, I think. Big Bane. Bane, way to call out the number of lurkers. I want option 3, says T.O. Tony Carlston says there are frogs that breathe with the mucus on their backs. We breathe like a bagpipe, says Big Bane. And T.O. says, I want them to absorb their equivalent of air through the consumption of Earth in a water world scenario. I want them to absorb their equivalent of air through the consumption of Earth. I'm not sure I'm understanding what that means, T.O. All right, now what about food? We're keeping this very simple. Again, there are, in role-playing games, we'll invoke Dungeons and Dragons, there are people who don't need to eat much, if anything at all. Do we need to eat? Now, I don't know what we eat. We eat bugs. We eat sunshine. We eat rocks. I don't know. But do we need to... Go ahead and vote. The poll is now open. Do we need to eat something? Could even be each other. It could be something we adapted to eat that used to eat us. It could be something that maybe we don't need to eat, but if we do eat, it could be a bonus or something. I don't know. No, I remember Waterworld was flooded, but I don't get how consuming Earth would give them air that they need to breathe. Like that's where I'm confused. I know the setting, but I don't get how like shoving like mud in their face, if they have a face, is gonna let them breathe whatever element they need to breathe. I mean, it could be possible. Don't let me shoot it down, T.O., but I'll at least test it and strengthen it here for you. If you're like, oh no, the mud is a special mud or something. I don't know. It's oxygenated somehow because of bacteria. Maybe that's it, and that's fine, right? We eat bread that has been infected by yeast. That makes it rise. So maybe they eat mud that's been infected by a bacteria that produces the gas that they need. All right, so the two options are yes, Krompsch, or no, we're good. Get your votes in. Not much time. Plants need minerals from the ground and fungus, but not all that often. All right, so we are going to need to eat water. Or I guess some equivalent. You know, in Maslow's hierarchy, we're presuming humans, and we do need water. Whoops. Let's open the poll. I will presume we need water, so the question is going to be more, how much? All right, now let me explain the answers before I make the poll go live for you all. I'm asking how much water. I have a limitation on characters, so I have to be brief with it, okay? Now, the first option is always, like, we're always wet. We have to be wet. Now, that doesn't mean that, like, we can't go diving in a diving pool. Just like we need, or, you know, like, well, I mean, we need water. That was more for breathing. I'm sorry. Like, we have to have water, you know, in us at all times, like, in and around us. Like, we always have to be sipping, or, you know, rainy, or it has to be super humid. Like, moisture is not an option. We must moisturize. Or maybe we just frequently need water. Or maybe we just need to make sure that we have water in us several times a day. And if we are watered several times a day, then we're cool. Now, we were born out of the shallows, and we might very well exist there. And for the most part, maybe we've actually never thought that we need water. And the fourth option is we don't actually need water. What if we are sustained by something else, but we just always attributed water to being a part of who and what we are? But in fact, it's something else. It's a property that exists in water, though it can exist on land or in other places too, such that we are fulfilled by this presence. So the poll is live. How much water do we need to absorb or consume or otherwise have be a part of us? Hey, come on, jump up, say hi to everyone. I have a wonderful lap you can sit in. You can say hi to everyone. Come on. There's pets in it for you. I promise. Come here. Right here. You need me to move my arm? Oh, that was it, huh? Oh my gosh. That was it, everyone. Hi. Oh, you're such a beautiful boy. No, we don't need to be moisturized like Lady Christina in Doctor Who. We can trick any future sapient races into watering us, says Big Bane. All right, we got a couple votes in. There's 34 of you watching. All of you get a vote in this. There's not an incorrect answer. I'm not going to judge you on, like, caught you. You voted this way. I want your input. This is an interactive workshop. Get your votes in, everyone. Looks like we have a tie. Can someone break the tie with the amount of time we have remaining? We have 6 people who've currently voted out of 34. Is there one person who can cast a vote? Okay. The tiebreaker, 3 to 2 to 2 to 0, is several times per day, tied with, and then frequently wet, and we don't actually need it. Which, that's cool. Like, we learned that we don't actually, you know, the water is cool, we can live in it, but we don't actually need water. Alright, so... Okay, how do we reproduce? Now, remember, in the hierarchy, sex is listed as one of those foundational physiological needs. Though I'm specifying this is for the sake of replacement, of reproduction. This is for the sake of the continuity of the species. This is not romantic. This is not necessarily relationship driven. This is how are we reproducing as plant people. You did bring up pollen, but you also brought that up as a method of transportation, which would make for an interesting culture if that's how we get around by expulsing our seed generation. Something like an egg, which would be like a seed. So we'd be like a plant that, like, we plant our own seed. I don't see why we also... there are plants that can, like, bear a branch off of them, and if the branch, like, fell off and on the ground, the branch can grow. That's kind of similar to a, maybe like a live birth. You know, like a mammalian trait, with the exception of the platypus. Sugar Plum says, I think it could be several different types depending on environmental factors and the subspecies. Gotta count on some animal to eat the seeds and poop them out. Well, yeah, that's how plants do it otherwise. They lay an egg asexually or pollinate. Oh, so there could be some of them that just... there's the egg. Well, fish, there's some fish that do that too. The female fish will come along and there's the eggs. Male fish goes along and there's the sperm, and they mix in the water, and there you go. You get the next generation of trout. I have not played Elder Scrolls. All I know about Argonians is that there's apparently a book about a lusty Argonian maid, and that seems to be the meme. Yeah, they could clone themselves by splitting. That is mitosis. Yeah, sending up suckers or offshoots. There are plants that do that too, where the roots, they'll just grow. Like, and all the trees are connected in that sense, right? All right, so let's open up a poll. and one more. So far, for the options, so you all know and you can vote over the next 2 minutes about how this species will reproduce, right? The basic tier of the hierarchy of needs. We have a kind of a traditional sexual reproduction where one of the plants is fertilized and then we'll like plant the seed, the fertilized seed, kind of like laying an egg. Okay, so we would have that situation where there is a plant that it must be fertilized. The fertilized seed forms and then it's dropped, planted, or whatever. And there could be nurturing involved, a nest, I don't know. It could be left behind. I'm not worried about that. I'm just looking at the mechanics of the reproduction for this species. So that's one. Fertilized, it plants a seed, like an egg, like laying an egg. Two, separate expulsions, which would be the equivalent of unfertilized seeds and then pollen later, like the fish example, where the female fish, there's the caviar, and then the male fish comes along, there's the sperm, and then we get the next generation. So that's a separate, that's number 2. 3 is an asexual reproduction, and that's splitting. So that is 1 becomes 2, or it could become more than that, right? Which kind of is like cloning, in a sense. The 4th option is just offshoots that could break off. Whether or not this is sexual, so I guess that would almost be like, I guess an offshoot breaking off would be kind of like a live birth. So let's recategorize this to. Okay, here are the 5 options now. I'm going to put this up to 3 minutes, so you all have an extra minute to think about it and vote on it. How does this... hey, Dingo Panic, good to see you. How does this species... Right? How does this species reproduce? What is our reproduction? You have 5 different answers, okay? There is... one of them is fertilized, and then it kind of lays an egg, like a seed, like an egg. It could be a separate expulsions, so one of them lays unfertilized seeds, and the other will provide pollen. So we'll say it that way. The third option, it just splits. It's an asexual thing, and it just it'll split, and that's how it's done. That's sexy time. Then there is an option of an asexual, like a live birth, would be a smaller thing would just grow off of it. It's its own thing, and it just kind of, right? It would break off or whatever, swim off or do whatever. But there was no going on. Or it requires a fertilization, but then there is another plant that is a smaller version, but that is born into the world. Or plants, plural. So you have about 1.5 minutes to vote, everyone. There's 5 different options. We could have something that's like a fertilization. So there's, pollen goes in, and then the seed is formed and then sort of like planted in the dirt. Like an egg. It's like an egg laid. Separate expulsions is one of them comes along with unfertilized seed. The other comes along with pollen. That's separate. And then they'll just do their thing from there. One is just, it's an asexual process, and it just splits. It's like a mitosis thing. Then you have an asexual, like a live birth, which is somewhat similar, but it's not a split. It's just, here's a part of me that I'm just growing a branch, and the branch falls off, and there we go. There's a new person. Or There's one that does involve a fertilization process, but then the plant just births a plant or several plants. I don't know. All right, only a little bit of time left. Get your votes in. There's a lot of you watching versus how many of you have voted. I mean, we're talking numbers between 2 and 3, and don't let the bar graph throw you off. You're like, oh, there's so much distance between a 2 and a 3. I'll never catch up. You are the deciding vote, everyone. All right, so we're doing an asexual reproduction where we split. Okay. Hi, Plaid Weasel. It's good to see you. How are things going for you, my friend? This poll is going down to 2 minutes. It's a simple question. Do we need to sleep? In D&D, elves do not need to sleep. Can they? No, I think they can. But they trance instead. Warforged do not necessarily sleep. They just enter like a low power mode where they can still observe and do things, but it's not sleep. Do we need to sleep? Is there a point in time where we are inactive for a period? I don't care if it's 4, 6, 12 hours, 20 hours of the day. The simple question is, do we need sleep or I guess sleep equivalent? Yes or no? From everything we've built so far, Plaid Weasel, we have a plant-based intelligent life form that is mobile in the water and somewhat in the air through tentacles and sort of some flipping membranes here. It is capable, some of them are capable of wielding magic. They see by tactile stimuli. Not traditional eyes or ears, but they do have senses, though it's way more involved with touch. They're natively, they were born out of the shallows. Uh-oh. Thank you, Kagome's Fury, for the raid. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the workshop. It was a bit loud? Oh, I'm sorry it was a bit loud for you, Tony. Hopefully if it happens again, I'll be able to look at the volume. I wasn't paying attention to the little volume meter, and I'll see what I can do if it strikes again. All right, there are 6 of you. 6 to 5. Ooh, see, it was close. Each and every one of you can decide these. So 6 to 5, we actually do not need sleep. Now, our homeostasis, this is a little bit when it, like early technology. How do we maintain a comfort? How do we maintain an environment that we need? I'm not worried about this because that was talked about in our build-up, right? We have rocks. There's simple shelters we can build, in that we can travel through the water or the air in order to get to the places that we need to eat or otherwise. Finish the gobbo with the exception of some glitter to be added after the matte finish. Made her a spiffy brick walkway too. Well, whether a work in progress or if you do want to wait until the final steps, Kagome, you know I would like to see that prize goblin. So thank you very much for putting in that time that you did, because when I peeked in earlier tonight, she was looking amazing. So thank you. Now, excretion, well, we do have food, we do have water in some way, and excretion would also be like an exhaling too. This one's going to be a little bit easy. Yes, we do need to excrete in some way. Now, I'm not going to put up a poll for, in chat for, well, how many orifices or whatever, for that. But if we've already voted that we have to breathe, eat, and drink, we're going to process it, and it's going to have to come out. Okay, the next layer that will build our culture. We need safety of things. How are we going to ensure the safety of our bodies, of employment, such that it exists? Because even in a primitive society, hey, if you get to serve the chief, that's a pretty good job. Even though you might only make, 2 shells and a beetle per week, that's still something. Pardon. So by this, well, yeah, so yeah, the poison taster too. Yeah, that's right. So these are things to. How are these preserved? And some of these things, like morality, might fall into something a little bit closer to religion, or a more advanced cultural thing to not have to worry about tonight. So let's go through. Yeah, it's 11. All right, not that the bodies of these creatures could act in a different way, or through different areas adapt differently, but for the tribe of these people that we are creating right now, or for the basic, all of them tend towards this. I want to know, how do we secure our bodies? And there are 4 answers. Do we secure it through like things that we've just adapted to wear, like clothing? I mean, it could be armor or clothing or just other things, right? It's external stuff. Do we secure our bodies with violence? I'm not going down. I'm going to take you with me. Or I'm going to take you down before you can take me down. Are we fight? Are we flight? Do we secure our bodies by vroom, getting out of there? That's how we can secure our bodies too. Or do we secure our bodies with some sort of camouflage instead? And so it may not necessarily be, it's not flight, because camo, you got to be still. It's not fight. It's kind of that in between. You just hope to, the signal goes out. The signal gets out there that either I'm not here or stay away. Oh, it might go in that direction, Plaid Weasel. We are very much in the primordial, the primordial essence of this creature and the culture that we're going to develop from what you're telling me here. Well, camo's not just a visual thing. Remember, we don't really have eyes. We detect through tactile, through differences in temperature, pressure, vibration, that kind of a thing. I mean, we might be able to have a sense of smell, but all right, looks like camo is winning this one. Employment, that's something for maybe economics. Well, they might, but we are asexual creatures, according to chat. So, hormones to do what exactly? Unless it's something to mimic another creature that does have more hormones in that direction. All right, broadly, how are we going to protect our resources and property? In a cultural sense, broadly, in a broad cultural sense, do we practice more, even if it's 51-49, are we more individual hoarders of our resources, of our property? Are we more of a collective hoarding our resources and property? Or are we aggressive? Grr, stay away. Whether it's saber rattling or actually fighting or casting our spells. Do we have individual aggression so it's outward? Or is it more of a collective of, nope, this is our territory, you're stay away or suffer the consequences? So hoarding is more internalized. Aggression is more of an external. If you come here, you're going to pay the cost. So get your votes in. There's 50 of you watching, and thank you for all of you who are hanging out. You came in the raids. You were recommended to us by Twitch. You're welcome. Your voice is welcome in this poll to ask questions, to engage with this. And there's 50 of you watching, and only 9 people have cast a vote. Each and every one of you can make a big swing in the results here. Get your votes in. There's maybe 10 seconds remaining. Individual hoarding. Remember, this is a broad description. How do I want to word this next one for the safety of the family? Let's do this with, all right, so for this next poll, in general, a cultural indicator to how we keep our families safe, okay? As this species, are we more individuals and loners? So, hey, you were born with what you need, because remember, we have asexual reproduction. I'm you and you're me, but you should have what you need, so take care of yourself. And if everyone takes care of themselves, everyone takes care of themselves, right? Is it more family by family? So really, the offshoots of one person, like, you really only care for those offshoots that you made? Is it more of a small collective, which would be like maybe a neighborhood, or, you know, like, you know, we're different families, but there's a couple of us that really just resonate because we're super close in some way. Something like large clans, like the big dwarven clans, where like everyone is a cousin, and if you piss off one dwarf, you've pissed off everyone in that clan. Or is it totally collective? Everyone's duty is to for of each other. We all keep each other in check and balance. We are everyone's responsibility. So get your votes in. 6 of you have voted. 51 of you are watching. Are we more of individuals? Are we more of a just one? Each family does their own. something like a small collective, which would be like the neighborhood watch, right? So people keep an eye out, and they keep in touch with their neighbors, or they're part of the city, that kind of a thing. Or like large clans, which is so it might be several families, but they're all really one family by a broad extension. Or is it everyone's duty? Like all neighbors look out for all kids, no matter what. It's a collective responsibility. So small collectives or large clans. All right, with 6 people voting. This is weird how some people vote in some polls and not in others. Y'all aren't scared, are you? You're not scared to click a button. I'm not judging you how you vote. I just want to know. Small collectives or large clans. All right, I need an answer, everyone. The poll has been reopened with only those 2 answers. So I need you to decide small collectives or large clans for these people. Get your vote in. There's only 2 choices. All right, Plaid Weasel. Oh, we have 9 people voting now, 5-4. There's still over a minute remaining. 5 of you want the small collectives. Again, that's like several families in a neighborhood, or if like half your city on your side of the city, that's what I mean by a small collective. Could be stranger families, but you still have a commonality. Like, look, we live on this side of the city. We got to watch our own. Let the East Siders take care of the East Siders. We're West Siders. We're going to take care of West Siders. Or large clans where it's like pretty much doesn't matter where you live, but if you're one of the families in the clan, you're family. 5-4 with about 30 seconds remaining. Only 6-4. 52 of you watching, and only 10 people have voted. Get your votes in now. There's no correct answer. I'm not judging you on a political compass. I'm not judging your morals or values. We are, as a human being in the real world, we're making a plant jellyfish sentient race. If you give an answer, that's the answer. And there's really not a correct answer. Trust, me, but trust yourself to work with whatever shows up. This is an exercise in trust. All right. Ooh, that was very close. 6-5. Small collectives. All right, and then our health. How do we secure our health? That might go into body as well. That might be through camo. It could be through the magic. I'm not going to worry about this one right now, as I want to finish up with our final tier that is going to influence our culture of love and belonging. Right? In the hierarchy of needs, these are the things that must be satisfied. And if we satisfy them, it will produce culture. How do we have friendship, family, and sexual intimacy is not necessarily an option, because we reproduce asexually. So this is actually something we can take off of the table. But we might still form bonds with friendship or family. And how can we what is a primary, even if it's 5149, what is a primary way for us to express All right, I'm going to allow for additional votes for this one, because what I'm going to do, is take the top 2 of the 5. The poll is open for 2 minutes. Have a good night, Rifu. Thank you for hanging out in the workshop. It was nice to have you here. So everyone gets 1 vote for free, and if you wanna put some inspiration points into something else, you may. Now, you express love or belonging by your similarity, like maybe how similar you look, as we are asexual, and we just split. Proximity, how close you get to someone else is a comfort level or a discomfort level. Contact, maybe people that you touch tendrils with, while it's not sexual, for intimacy or reproduction, this means, ET. Oh, maybe contact is a way to express. Favors is, hey, I owe you one, thank you. I'll trade favors. Or gifts. Hey, here's a red paperclip I found. We're friends. Or, hey, here's a red paperclip I found. We're family. So get your votes in, everyone. The top 2 are going to be how we primarily express love or belonging. And extra votes are possible with your points, your inspiration points, which are channel points. They look like this. Get those votes in. All right, 11 to 10 to 9 to 7. So trading favors does not seem to be a part of intimacy, but a similarity. So if someone is, I don't know, it has a red something through camouflage or through wearing something red, to express a sense of love or belonging to that person, you approach them wearing red. So similarity, and then how close you get to them, proximity. But gifts was pretty strong in there too. So we're just going to put similarity and proximity. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, everyone, I am going to take these prompts that you helped, and I'm going to write up some proto-cultural notes, similar to how I wrought the world from everything that we've made in the workshop before. We're taking it to the next step, and I'm going to write a document to present the basic behaviors of these people. And then from there, when we have our workshop again on Wednesday, let's look at that, as well as take into consideration the moons, the suns, the ring. We're going to create a religion from this culture. Then we're going to create technology of this culture. Then we're going to create an economy with this culture. That's the Ferengi way. Quack! Sugar Plum says, I love the idea that if they are into someone, they just start looking like them and mirroring them. It could be adorable and awkward.
walking back.
All right. Excellent stuff, everyone. Sorry, I had to check something off on the side here.